Live your life within the moment, and don't go wait until the morning. You never know when it is over. All that I know is we'll get older. So let us dance this night away. To the groove and the light that flickers. We get lost in the crowd, it's getting thicker. We get away from the drinks and chatter. Haven't said a word, but it doesn't matter. Feel the air get thinner. I'm standing in a blurry dream. No one else can see us. Live your life within the moment. And don't go wait until the morning. You never know when it is over. All that I know is we'll get older. So let us dance this night away. Thinner. I'm standing in a blurry dream. No one else can see us. So let us dance this night away.
Hello, good evening and welcome to Be More Super Live. I'm by myself because Dan, unfortunately, has got internet issues, so it's just me and our great guest. Our guest this week, she's been in Star Trek, Conan the Barbarian, G.I. Joe, the Amityville Horror, Continuum, and even a Bon Jovi music video, which is just fantastic. It's Rachel Nichols. Rachel, welcome to the show, my love.
Thank you so much for having me, Brian. I really appreciate it.
And you caught me off guard, so I apologise to everyone watching in the US as well. As Brits, our times change at different times. So our clocks go forwards and backwards, same as everyone around the world. But for some reason, our clocks change at different times, which is inconvenient. So thank you, Rachel, for bearing with us. But how exciting to have you on this show, because I've got so many questions. I really, really have, because I've been a fan of yours since Continuum, and I'm still exploring your great work, which one of them is P2, which I haven't seen yet, and I've seen a lot of chatter about it, and it looks an awesome film. So we are going to quickly brief on that very, very soon. But before we start talking about your awesome career, I wanted to ask, what initially sparked your interest in pursuing a career in acting? Because if I'm right in saying you went to Columbia in New York, I mean, what sort of career was you destined to go into, and then you changed your mind to go into acting?
It was very different. I was basically math, econ, gonna go to Wall Street, do all of that. And then I was gonna go to graduate school after I finished up at Columbia. And my parents said, okay, well, we paid for your undergraduate work. You're gonna have to pay for yourself if you want to go to graduate school. And I was working a job in retail at the time, and that obviously was not going to pay for Columbia Business School. And one thing happened, you're in New York City. I ended up getting stopped by modeling agents. I started a modeling career that led to commercials. And then they asked me if I wanted to act. And I just thought, sure, I'll give it a go. Like, no harm, no foul. And my first audition was for just one episode of Sex in the City, and it's called A Vogue Idea for anybody that's a fan of the show. And that was my first job, and I loved it. And then
And the
here I am.
rest is history. Yeah.
Yeah, here I am many years later, and yeah.
Do you know what I find is crazy is that these projects that you've been in so many, people are still talking about them. And I was looking at IMDb, looking at all these projects that you've been in, and I can't believe how long ago they were. How time flies, like literally Star Trek 2009. And you think the years are going too fast. So when you started out and you made that decision to get into acting, to get into Hollywood, did you have a plan in place in what you wanted to achieve, what goals, people you wanted to work with?
I first of all have to say a big shout out and thank you to my parents, because without their support and willingness to let, let their daughter actively pursue a career that wasn't exactly what I had intended, I give a shout out to them because I wouldn't have done it without their support. Um, but I just wanted to between the travel and just get good scripts and get a ton of different roles, and I've been very fortunate in that respect. And one of my big dreams actually did come true, because I did a movie called Charlie Wilson's War, and that came out, that was many moons ago. That was 2005 maybe. But I got to work with the late Mike Nichols, the late Philip Seymour Hoffman, and Tom Hanks, and that was pretty incredible. That was a big deal. And I'm only in the movie for about 5 minutes.
Doesn't matter. It's still life goals, and you're still in it. You're on the screen, and I often find that a character that normally is in a film for a couple of minutes can make such an impact. Because it depends what they're doing on in that scene. I mean, there's things on the internet that I've read about you, and I wanted to check to see if they're true, because not a lot of things are true that we read. I think Denzel Washington once said, "If we was it," he said, "If we don't read the news, we're uninformed. If we read the news, we're misinformed." Which is quite a clever thing. But apparently you went for an audition, and I don't know if this is true, because you've got a dog now called, I think, if I'm correct in saying, Lolo. Um,
Yes.
yeah. So, but apparently you used to be scared of dogs. Is that correct?
Right. She's right here.
Oh, there she is. Oh,
She's
beautiful.
sitting on the welcome mat that says, "I hope you like pit bulls," because she's a rescue. Um, so I was never a dog fan, but there's a backstory to that. Growing up, my dad had a dog, Jesse, a yellow lab that he had before he ever even met my mother. So obviously before kids. And when I was in second grade, second or third grade, we had to put Jesse down because Jesse had arthritis. And it's the only time in my life I've ever seen my father cry. And I remember young Rachel went, "I don't like dogs. They've made my dad sad." Jesse, that was where my little brain went, and it lasted for a large part of my life. And then I will admit there were some friends of mine that had what I call gateway dogs. Victor Webster, who I know has been on this program before, he had a dog the first season of Continuum named Harley, who I really liked. And then there have just been a couple. My friend Carmela has a rescue pit, and I fell in love with him. So I wasn't ever super afraid of them. I'm not like great with big, scary, aggressive dogs. I would say that, but the most aggressive dog I know of is my friend's Chihuahua. That thing scares me far more than any pit bull I've ever met in my life.
Do you know what? I've always found the smaller the dog, the more vicious they are. The bigger the dog,
Mm-hmm.
the softer they are. But again, dogs, it's nurture, isn't it? I find you can get the biggest dogs like the Rottweilers, and if they're cared for properly, I think they make the most incredible, pets. Unfortunately, I've got 4 cats at home. So that is not my choice. That is the wife's choice. And yeah, they've all got great personalities. They really have. But no, the reason why I mentioned dogs was because there was a film that you was in, which is Amityville Horror. I've
Mhm.
got a little poster here, which is an amazing movie. It really is. I don't know how true to the story it is because obviously it's based loosely on a true story. But
Right.
apparently you had an audition. I read somewhere that you had an audition and there were dogs in the office, and I don't know if that's true or is that fabricated. Something about Michael Bay and there was dogs and you were scared.
Oh, yes. Yes, actually. I have a terrible memory, so thank you for jogging that
It's
memory.
okay.
I was thinking, yes, it was the audition was with Michael Bay. He wasn't directing the film, but he was producing it. And they had very large dogs in that office that were not vicious by any chance. They barked a lot, but they were very big dogs. It probably lent very well to my audition at the end of the day because I went into the room petrified. So there you go.
It helped you along the way. Maybe that's the reason why Mr. Bay decided to bring some giant dogs in that room. Why we've got Amityville Horror on the screen? Obviously, you played the babysitter in the movie. What was that
Mhm.
experience like, knowing that it was based on loosely based on a true story? Being in that movie.
Well, I love anything that's even loosely based on a true story because I just buy into it completely. And it was such a fun role to play. And in case anybody was wondering, which I'm sure nobody is wondering, Ryan Reynolds is a lovely, wonderful human being. Like such a great guy, such a sweetheart. And yeah, it was we were in the middle of nowhere in Illinois, and there's that I mean, the scene where I'm putting my finger into the girl's forehead, ugh, that was, ugh. But even grossed me out a little bit. And I've had to do some gross stuff, but it was so much fun. And also, I will say, at that time, Ryan Reynolds was dating Alanis Morissette, and that was a very big deal because I got to meet Alanis Morissette. I was like,
Wow.
sorry, Ryan, but can I meet your girlfriend, please?
Yeah, move aside. No one cares about you anymore. But you know what? That is really refreshing because there are some reports out there regarding Ryan on the way he is on set. So, again, you don't know what to believe. So, if you're saying he's very nice, there you go. It's from someone directly that's worked with him. Um,
Yes.
I've got to ask as well. Starting out in I think Alias as well, which was one of your first jobs with Jennifer Garner, which Alias for me was just one of those great shows. I mean, back then there weren't many, great sort of shows that you could get your teeth into and watch every week. And sadly, it finished too soon, in my opinion. But you was on that show, kicking ass in high heels. I think I've got a picture of your character here. There you go.
Oh, yes.
Yes. I mean, what was that like to work on? Because if I'm right in saying, the production team was eyeing you up or grooming you, to take over the role.
Hmm.
Because obviously Jennifer Garner was apparently going to be leaving. I mean,
Yeah.
what was that experience like being in that?
Well, first of all, I was a huge fan of the show, and when I auditioned for the role, J.J. Abrams was in the room, obviously, and Ken Olin, and I kind of played it. I didn't want them to know that I was a super fan of the show because I thought they might not hire me if they thought I was a crazy person. So I kind of played it off. I've seen a couple of episodes. You can't watch just a couple of episodes of Alias. You have to watch the whole thing. So I'd seen everything, and then I got the job. The ink was barely dry on my contract, and I went into Ken Olin and I said, "Well, I'm in season 5, and season 4 is not out yet on DVD, and I'm going to need to see season 4 before I start the show." And he went, "I thought you'd only seen a couple of episodes," and I went, "Oh no, I'm a huge fan. I just didn't want you guys to know before you hired me." So yes, in a world that we knew would never exist, Balthazar Getty and myself were going to sort of slide into the Michael Vartan and Jennifer Garner positions. Now, we all kind of knew that would never happen, but it's okay. It was a wonderful, wonderful group of people. each one more lovely than the next. Again, I've been very fortunate. Jen is as just as lovely as you would think she would be. So was J.J. Abrams, and it was such a cool, fantastic group of people. Um, it was such a good way. That was my first sort of big role on a series, and it was the best. It was such a good experience. I think my life would have been altered had I gone into a bad set in that sort of circumstance, because I was maybe 23, 24, so it was a while ago.
I mean, looking back, I mean, doing shows back then to doing shows now, has much changed within the industry in how people are treated and how the industry itself works.
Yeah, I mean, there's a limitless number of responses to that. The industry changes with the times. I mean, when when I first started in the industry, after a take, when we say we got it, they'd have to check the gate, which means checking the camera lens to make sure there was no hair in the gate, because that would obviously ruin the shot. You'd have to do it again.
Mm.
That literally doesn't exist anymore. The cameras have changed, the technology has changed. You can shoot much quicker. You can shoot more at once, and as far as I mean, I know there's this whole AI thing going on. Obviously, I'm very much aware of it. I would like to believe that actors and people will always, actually, humans will be needed for these jobs, writers, and yeah. So that part we're also reluctantly looking at right now, is though to see where is it going to go, because it's obviously going to go somewhere. So yes, from I'm 44, and I kind of started when I was 23. So yeah, 20 years, a lot has changed.
Mhm. I mean, with
And
these
now
big.
we're all auditioning at home because of COVID. We
Mhm.
used to go into casting offices for auditions with the casting director and associates and producers. And now it's all self tape. I do it, well, I have a backdrop and everything, but I do it right here in my kitchen.
I mean, self tapes. There is a plus and a minus. I can imagine. One is that you can get the best version for you to be sent. But then I
Yeah.
suppose that you're not going to get the instant feedback from producers or casting directors. Maybe they want you to do something slightly different. So they're only seeing one version and then that's it. And then they're moving on to the
Yeah.
next.
Yeah, and that you are 100% spot on. Yes, you get to submit your best take, because casting directors don't want you to submit 5 takes. They want one take, your choice. But yeah, when you're in the room, like for me, when I went and auditioned for Man in the High Castle, which was a totally fun role as well, that's before COVID, and being in the room and casting worked with me, because they had a different idea of what they wanted, and we worked in the room, and I got the job. If I had just sent them my initial interpretation of what they wanted, or what I thought they wanted the character to be, I never would have gotten the job.
Mm.
So, if there's that, it's a double-edged sword. It's good and bad. But listen, I mean, I don't want to brag, but sometimes I don't even have to wear pants. I mean,
that
let's
is
be honest. I'm only
that is
from Europe.
that is true. The world has changed because I had to work all the way through the pandemic. So did my wife, because we were what they call key workers. Um, but there are many people that actually work from home that never got out their PJs. So I wish I had a job that I could work from home. It just sounds great. It really does. But how is everything now over there with the pandemic, with like precautions and everything like that? Because in the UK, it's like as if it never happened, which is quite strange, from what we went through for those 2-3 years.
Yeah. I mean, I shot a Netflix movie, and I joined a TV show here called A Million Little Things. And this is during pandemic time, and the protocols and the masks and the visors, and certain number of people could be on set. And as a cast member, you'd get in your position, and you take your mask off, and then you almost had to do little touch-ups to make sure there were no mask lines or anything like that, because they couldn't have too many people on set. It is not like that anymore.
Mm.
It is much more relaxed. Some people still choose to wear masks, but it's basically like it didn't happen.
I mean, it's quite strange to see people still wearing masks now, and we should respect that. You know, if people want to wear a mask, there's nothing wrong with that. But looking back before the pandemic, if we saw anyone wearing a mask, it would have been the most unusual thing to see. But now it's just the norm. It really is, and people are getting creative with it and putting patterns on the front of masks and everything like that, which I think is great, which is fantastic.
Mhm.
But I suppose flying is one thing. I mean, it's bad enough getting colds when you're on a long haul flight. So now, I suppose, I mean, I'm going to Chicago in April. So obviously I'll be masking up because I will just catch anything that's going around. So you've got to be prepared, haven't you?
Yeah, I still always have masks with me. I'm actually leaving to go to Vancouver, Canada tomorrow for a gig. And, I always have everything still readily available, whether it's the hand sanitizer or the masks. And I kind of survey my audience that I'm sitting next to on the plane. And I love children. I don't have any children of my own, but if I see a small, sick child, I will likely just put on the mask. And I do find that a lot of people, um, respectful people are who are sick or not horribly sick with COVID, but they also take the time and care to put on their masks. So
Mm.
I haven't been awkward and sneezed on in a while, which I'm grateful for.
Which is good. So let's get onto your career. I mean, what does a role have to have for Rachel to say I want that role?
You know, I've done stuff that I love. I've done stuff that I was like, that could have turned out better. I'll be honest. I don't think there's any actor out there who thinks everything they've ever done is fantastic. But for me, it's character based, and I know a lot of people say, well, the script has to be good, but I look at the character first, and I like to run the gamut. Whether it's I do love my sci-fi, my thrillers, horrors, stuff like that. I cannot sing, so sadly, you will never ever be able to see me performing in a musical unless I'm someone who can't talk or sing in the musical. That's my character. Um, but I like to read the script, read the character. I have an acting coach who I absolutely adore, and I know that some actors are very. Oh, I don't have an acting coach. I do this all myself. No, I have a very talented, extremely wonderful acting coach I've worked with since Alias. I worked with her on the Alias audition actually. And I love to get a script and then get the offer, and then we work on the script together. We find these nuanced sort of things, and um, I just it take it. Let's see, what have I done lately? Lately, well, I just did one episode guest star on a show here called Alert, and it was just one episode, so I got to do the woman whose surrogate is abducted, and then I get held at knife point. All this sort of crying, the fear, the whole thing. You get to run the gamut when you're only visiting for a couple weeks. Um, but I'll try anything. I mean, with a reason. I mean, obviously, but yeah, I love a new challenge. I love a challenge as well, and so yeah, I'm always looking forward to what's coming next.
I mean, is there a role that you wouldn't want to do? Is there certain characters that you just wouldn't want to take on?
I would, just because of, again, this is talking about the climate change as well. I would have a problem playing a trans person, since there are so many trans people out there that would deserve that role. I
Mm.
don't think I don't think I'm eligible for that role. I don't think I belong in that role. I think there are so many talented people who would that do the whole idea justice better than me. So there are certain things like that, politically speaking, that I just think would be very offside. Um, but for the most part, and nudity, I don't. mm, mm,
Which is
yeah.
fair enough. I mean, I read somewhere that in P2, which is a film that you did a few years ago, that in the contract, no, it was in the script that apparently you read that you had to wear a nightie, but with no bra and underwear,
Mhm.
which are these studios ever thinking about the actor in mind on what they might be comfortable with or not, or do they just see actors as pieces of meat that will just perform for them, like
I
carnival
think that's
monkeys?
changed a lot. Yeah, I think that's changed a lot too. But I will give them credit on P2. I said, guys, first of all, I'm running around a parking lot being chased by Rottweilers barefoot. I can't be in a flimsy, I get soaking wet. I'm not making a
Mm,
wet nighty kind of movie. And they acquiesced. And they weren't forceful with me or said, "Well, you won't get this job unless you go bra free and underwear free and let it all hang out." They were willing to work with me on that. And the dress that we chose is sexy, and there is cleavage, but it's long enough so that I could run and not have it flying all over the place, and there's enough coverage there so that I could get wet, covered with blood, all of that stuff, and not, have a wardrobe malfunction. So, although I think things are different, yeah, see, there you go. Although I
mm.
think things are different today, I will give them credit for being willing to work with me. And for that, I've never in all the work that I've done ever been really forced to do something I was uncomfortable with.
Mm. So, am I right in saying that P2 is a Christmas movie?
It's like a weird cult Christmas movie, yes.
Do you know what? I need to check it out because I watched the trailer and it looks awesome. It really, really does. So I'll be watching that either later on with a nice bottle of vino
Yes.
after this live stream. So obviously, you're no stranger to action, which is
No.
great to see. I am a massive advocate for seeing strong female characters on our screens. And I think that's partly down to I have two daughters and I want them to
Ah,
grow up seeing, these strong characters on screen and looking at them thinking, I can do that. I'm capable of doing that, and it's just wonderful to see. So we're going to go through a few of your roles and just get a bit of an insight. And the first one I want to talk about is Star Trek, because
yes.
this must have been a ticket. A tick off your bucket list, and I wanted to ask that you went through a big transformation for this role. How was that experience? Because it wasn't just your hair, it wasn't just fingernails or anything like that. It was a big transformation.
Yeah. So I played Gayla, the green girl. And she's green, as you might know by being the green girl. The hair and makeup for that, there is a scene where I'm sort of in a bra and underwear and I'm with Zoe Saldana, Chris Pine, and we have this sort of funny comedic scene. But I'm green and I'm in a bra and underwear. There you go. Look at her right there. And that hair and makeup took 6 hours, six, maybe a little bit more hours. Um, Excuse me, there were a couple other days on the set when I was only in makeup for 3 or 4 hours. But the thing about being painted is you're sticky, and you can't really sit down or get comfortable because the paint's going to come off. So I was lying down on a tarp for most of the day, just straight, trying not to sweat and ruin the paint. And I remember just being sticky and thinking, this is such an iconic role, but it'll be one that I love so much more when I'm done filming it. Just because, I mean, like, I don't know how Rebecca Romaine did it for X-Men for all those years. She was blue for forever. But I will say I have a very cool story because Leonard Nimoy told me the story about the original Green Girl when they were doing the TV show. And the quicker version is it was the studio that didn't tell the network, or the network that no, a studio that didn't. One of them didn't tell the other that she was supposed to be green, so they kept trying to color correct the green girl who was supposed to be green, and they were turning everybody else orange. But there was this whole communication breakdown because the people that were doing the editing had not been informed that the character was actually supposed to be entirely green. And to have Leonard Nimoy tell you this story, that was pretty awesome.
To meet the man himself, I mean, he's such a legend to any Star Trek fan or sci-fi fan, a music fan because of obviously his albums. Because many might not realize that he has a few albums out as well for singing. I mean, with this green, I've got to say, did you test the green out before actually covering yourself in it? Only because I once painted myself green for a Halloween party. I was Incredible Hulk. Unknown to me, it stains, and I was off green color for at least a week. I mean, did they test this out on you beforehand?
So Mindy Hall was my makeup artist for that. She was the head of makeup on the show, and I had worked with her on Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants Part Two previously. And yes, we did a test, but I'm very fair. So what happened after the day of shooting is I would go into the hair makeup truck and I'd strip down. They'd obviously close the doors, and they would cover me with shaving cream, and I'd hang out covered in men's shaving cream for about 10 minutes. And then we would towel it off, get behind the ears, get into the scalp. And I would still be green. And it would take days for it to dissipate and to go away. And still you'd be like itching your ear one day and you'd be like, oh, there was still some left in there. But yeah, that was that was quite a process.
I bet. Bless you. I mean, the things that you do for art, eh? I've got to say, turning yourself self green, and such a lovely story there about Leonard Nimoy. I mean, is it true that when you went for the role for Star Trek, that you didn't actually know what you was going for, or was it actually
Oh
explained to you
yeah.
beforehand?
Oh no. JJ's notoriously very private with scripts, and of course you're doing Star Trek, of course. But yeah, no, I had no idea. They didn't tell you anything. Even when I got the movie, I wasn't allowed to have a full script. I only got my scenes, and I wasn't even allowed to leave the set with those scenes. I had to turn all of all the paperwork in um, before I left every night that I was shooting. You couldn't take anything with you, and it was all to keep it secret. Like they drove me around the Paramount lot. I would come out of my trailer wearing a cloak, black all the way down, and then they would put me in what they called the Pope Mobile because it was a golf cart. It was all blacked out because they didn't want to reveal my character because they didn't want everybody to know the green girl was going to be in it. So uh, that stuff makes it even more fun. It really does.
Well, it's official. You're my second Orion on the show. So I've had Janet Kidder,
Ah,
that was an Orion on Star Trek Discovery. So she was on my show a little while back. But isn't it sad that you've got to hide everything so the paparazzi or someone doesn't take a picture of you and spoil it for other people? Because I think that's what they're doing at the moment for the latest Deadpool movie, is that they're taking all these pictures, so they're ruining it for all the fans. And then I
yeah.
wanted to. Yeah, it is really bad. I mean, I wanted to go on to GI Joe, which for anyone my age, I'm also 44. I have had a hard paper round, I've got to say. I'm married twice, so so this poster here. I mean, a lot of people have issues with wardrobe and they have boring things to wear, but you have a kick-ass sort of tactical outfit. I mean, going for this role, I mean, how exciting was it? Because GI Joe is sort of an institute not only in the States but around the world. I think all kids played with the figures when they were younger.
Yeah. So funny bit of trivia here. I auditioned for the role of Scarlet in GI Joe when I was shooting Star Trek, so I already had the red hair, which is perfect. And I auditioned for the role of Scarlet with sides from another movie Stephen Summers had shot called Van Helsing. So when I got offered the role of Scarlet, I had never seen a script. I'd never seen one line of her dialogue, nothing. I had auditioned with the Kate Beckinsale role from Van Helsing, and then I got hired based on that with my red hair.
Ah, was this after Van Helsing was filmed?
Was it after what?
Was this after Van Helsing was filmed?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
This was after Housing was filmed, and I got the call from Stephen Summers that I got the job while I was in my trailer working on Star Trek, and I freaked out, freaked out, freaked out. Like, oh man, I'm so excited. Thank you. I'm so excited. He goes, you haven't read the script yet. And I said, Stephen, I don't care. I get to play Scarlet. I don't care. I'm sure it's going to be good, but I don't care. I'm signing me up.
I mean, with this film, I mean, it's aged really, really well. I mean, the special effects, the action in it, it's just a great movie to watch. I actually rewatched it the other night, and it's still as enjoyable as the first time I watched it in the cinema many moons ago. I mean, what was it
Right.
like to film on set? Because obviously, it's one thing us as an audience, what we see is like the finished article in its full glory. But what was it like to film on set with all those explosions and fights and everything like that? Was you a kid in Disneyland?
I mean, it's so much fun because even though you do see the behind the scenes things, you get to be in. Which we shot in Downey, California, which is not a glamorous place, but there are stages there. We shot there for 4 months, I think, and then we went to Prague for a month, and that because Prague was doubling as Paris because we did not shoot in Paris. They did some stuff, but not, you know, Scarlett racing around the Eiffel Tower in her motorcycle. That obviously was not real. But it's so much fun. Plus that cast: Sienna Miller, Channing Tatum, Marlon Wayans, Joseph Gordon-Levitt. I mean, we just had so much fun. And Stephen Sommers, who directed it, is a kid himself, and it was just exciting. My parents came to Prague when we were shooting. They came to visit, and Stephen Summers offered my mom his director's chair, and she said, "Oh no, I can't sit in that." He goes, "I never sit down anyway." And I looked at her and I said, "Mom, he never sits. He never sits in that chair, not one." And then my dad's 6 feet 7 inches tall. He's a very tall man. My dad just decided to go bebop around the set and just make friends with with some of the Czech crew and ask them a lot of questions and, oh, what are you doing here? And they were all so lovely. Despite a little bit of a language barrier, I think my dad made about 100 friends that day. But yeah, that was, again, like, I've been very lucky. I've had so many wonderful special experiences.
I mean, it sounds like your dad was doing a typical dad thing where they go to your work and they walk around as if like sort of they're part of it, probably advising them better ways of doing things, which I'm sure he did.
My dad he was, but my dad was mostly inquisitive. What is this? Why are you putting this here? What does this mean? Where is this? What is this
So we
piece of
basically
thing that you have?
he walked round like a 4 year old then, asking
Yes,
why, what's this? Excellent.
yes, yes. And then they gave my mom cans so she could listen to a scene. My dad's walking around. I have a scene with Marlon Wayans, and it's funny, and of course Marlon is hysterical. The whole family are, but after that scene, my mom came over to me and she just said, "Oh, that Marlon is so funny. He should do comedy." I was like, "Mom, his family is comedy dynasty, but I'll let him know you think he should get into comedy. Sure, no problem."
Do you know what? I was going to ask what the cast was like, but you just make it sound like it was just one big sort of, you know, party. Do you know what I mean? It's sort of like you're in
Yeah,
Prague. I mean, I've been to Prague a few times and it's a beautiful place. It really is. The food, the scenery, the architecture, I think is fantastic. No wonder it's used for so many films like Hellboy, and Van Helsing was filmed there as well. It's just an
yeah.
absolutely beautiful place. Did you keep anything from GI Joe? Did you manage to keep any props or any items? I mean, do you keep anything from any of your projects?
I keep things when they have sentimental value. Like, I don't keep a lot of things. I always keep my chair back, because in your chairs you have your character name, and then those are canvas, so they just slide off. I always keep those. Because my dad, I give those to my dad. Um, I don't think I kept anything from GI Joe. I also don't know if I was allowed to or not. I certainly wasn't allowed to take anything from Star Trek whatsoever. But in Continuum, I did take that one toy soldier that was my son's that I ended up traveling back with. So I kept that. I kept that.
And obviously, Continuum, the creator and the showrunner is a friend of the show. I've had him on a couple of times, Mr. Simon Barry. I think he's just
Yeah.
a really lovely, lovely man. Um, but yeah, so and then I wanted to talk about Conan because Conan is just an epic movie. Believe it or not, I haven't seen the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie, so I haven't got anything to compare it to, which I think's a great thing because I think that when you do, you sort of I don't know, you pick at things. I mean, I'm not a typical critic. Critics, I think, are out there just to pick things apart and find, horrible things so they can make themselves sound more interesting. But Conan, I've got to say, what an awesome, awesome film. I mean, what attracted you to the role of Tamara? Because she is an excellent role in there, and she's got a great story arc.
Jason Momoa. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I love Jay. He was like a big brother. He was very protective of me. And we were in Bulgaria, which you know it's a little questionable in some areas. But this was the first kind of sort of more period-ish piece that I was doing. There were going to be sword fights, and there was the wardrobe in and of itself. I learned how to ride horses on that film. I had never really ridden a horse at speed, galloped, any of that. Um, and Kala, the stunt and horse coordinator, he helped me learn how to ride a horse, drive a carriage. I got to do all of these really totally different things than I was used to. And there is fighting, and I did get to do swords play and all of that. But it is such an epic story to begin with, and and yeah, when I went in to test for it with Jay, Jay already had the role. He was just such a gentle giant. I thought I will be safe with this man no matter where in the world I am. And honestly, we spent a ton of time together with all the stunt guys, the Bulgarian stunt guys, the American stunt guys from 1187. But Jay would always say, You're not going out without me. I am your de facto bodyguard." And I would say,
Oh.
"Yep, okay, great." So he took very, very good care of me. He's lovely as well. Again, another really lovely person.
And this is why everyone loves him. I went to a convention once and Jason Momoa was there, and I think my wife forgot she was married for all of 20, 30 seconds. But do you know what? It's fine. I let her off because I was thinking the same. But I've got to say, the action in this film is astonishing. I mean, how much of your action did you do, like the stunts? I mean, was it all you, or was it 80% you, and then you had a stunt person come in?
I had a stunt double who's incredible. Her name is Monique Ganderton, and there's one scene where Tamara jumps from one running horse onto the back of another running horse. That is not me. I did not do that. Monique is wonderful with horses. She's a well known equestrian. Like, she could handle all of it, and I do as much as I can. I learn all the fight scenes. I love them. I like to get down and dirty. I like to get thrown around. But you always, if the production is generous enough, you always have your stunt double with you. If there's something you need to work on with them, or you're a little bit nervous about certain things, then I always had Monique, and I could always answer. And of course, the stunt coordinators and everything, Kala, were fantastic. I'd like to say that 80% of it is me, but to be honest with you, she was such a good double for me. I don't know how it could be more, it could be less. I don't know, but I don't think it matters. It's perfect.
So basically, you can lie and say, "Yeah, it was all me. It was all me,"
I
because she was that
could.
good. It's fine.
If I was going to be a real dick about it, that would be so rude.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I've got to say, with all these big budget movies come the press junkets. I mean, how do you find the press junkets? And I want to talk about one interview in particular that I don't know if it's because I'm watching it now in this age that we're in, but I felt very uncomfortable for you. I thought it was quite rude, what was said. I don't know if it rings any bells for you. But
Okay.
first of all, how do you find press interviews? When you sit in the room and you've got different reporters coming in. I mean, do you find that fun, or do you find that quite repetitive?
I have such respect for the the reporters and the interviewers that come in, and journalists that come in, and some, listen, we'll be honest, some some questions everybody's going to ask the same question. For me, my job is to not answer it the same exact way every way. Try to make it interesting. Try to reinvent it, because I don't want a journalist who's spending their time with me to help me promote a project of mine that I'm involved in. I don't want them to think I was just sitting there like, oh, next please, get me out of here, because that's not my personality, and that would also not be very professional. So for the questions that are asked all the time, I try to have slightly different responses, but nothing is ever by rote. Then you get some incredible questions that nobody else asks, and that's really exciting, because sometimes at these big junkets, sometimes you get 3 minutes with a person, sometimes you get 5 minutes with a person, sometimes you get 10 minutes, and some of them can go longer than that. They're all spaced out and planned out. I don't mind them. I know there are a lot of actors that say they don't get paid to act, they get paid to do the press. But I mean, the trip we took on the GI Joe press tour was incredible, and I loved it. So maybe I have a very good time during the press junkets. But I am interested to hear
Yeah.
this one that you're going to specifically.
So I got brought up to always be respectful. Never to cross any boundaries, and always speak to people with utmost respect. And it was the press junket for Conan. And there was one reporter that basically said, let me just write, I had to write it down. What did he say? He said that how revealing the film is for some actors. And you responded, they're not my boobs, they were a stunt boob. And
Mhm.
then, instead of leaving it there, he turned around and asked you if the proportions were close to your own.
I knew
And
you were going to ask this. Yes,
and
that happened.
and I was like literally shocked that question was asked afterwards. You kept your composure. You had a big smile on your face. But I was quite shocked. I would never, ever, ever, ever say anything like that. I mean, is that something that normally happens? And how does that make you feel? Because it's quite a. Well, I was just shocked.
I remember being shocked, and I remember, because you have to think on your toes. You have to
Mm.
think on your toes, and you want to get past it. And I mean, I thought my initial response, there's breasts or boobs or whatever. Uh, I think that had already gone too far to ask about them, and then to try to follow up. I mean, I did want to punch him right in the face. I do remember this. I knew to bring up, but of course, I didn't. Um, and I just remember that's the only time that's ever happened, and it's also the only film or TV show I've ever done where there is any nudity. And like I said, I always make this joke. The joke from Seinfeld. I would say those boobs are real and they're spectacular. They are not mine, and I just would always leave it at that. But that guy, yeah, he went too far.
Yeah, I mean, you just see a lot of it at the moment. I mean, Scarlett Johansson got it for Avengers. When people are commenting on outfits and, what are you wearing underneath? Like that's got anything to do with the art of her acting and portraying a role on TV or film.
Mhm.
It's just ridiculous. I just want to quickly, before we bid our farewell, because we're coming to the end of the stream. Pandemic. I know we started off talking about Pandemic, but I'm talking about the movie Pandemic, because it is
Yes.
such a great watch. And normally, films shot in this way. Let me bring up a poster. Films. Oh no, this is you. This is you at the
Yes,
back of a bus. Films like this, which is shot in the first person sort of way, normally makes me feel a bit ill. I'm watching it and it's all over the place. But this, I don't know if he shot it differently. It's still first person, but the way it was shot, I think was very clever, very well done. Made me jump about, well, countless times. I mean, what was it like to work on and this way of filming? Because it's quite strange. It's a different take on potentially what could have happened during the pandemic. It's just strange that these films were made before COVID, and watching them
Mhm.
now makes them even more scarier because it gives a bit more reality to it.
Yeah, well, again, I mean, another great cast. You've got Mekhi Phifer, you've got Missy Powell, you've got Alfie Allen, and John Suits directed it. And I subsequently did another film with him. He's fantastic. His vision was amazing, and that is not a huge budget movie. It's not a huge budget movie, but it looks. I'm very proud of that movie. Now, our camera operator Amanda was incredible because they built a contraption for her to wear. So unless you're seeing a surveillance video or the camera and like my headgear, she's doing the action. It was heavy, and she had guys helping her do the movement so that it wasn't too jostly and it wasn't too crazy, but also to protect her neck because this was new sort of technology that we were using in a new, a new aesthetic. But I'm glad that you brought it up because I'm very proud of that film. Again, like I said, another great cast, another great director, and aesthetically very interesting because I'm with you, and first person stuff kind of makes me a little barfy sometimes, but that one didn't. So, Amanda, thank you.
I mean, what's it like working on a project like this compared to like a big budget studio movie? Because I often find that there's a handful of studio movies that are amazing, but I often find the low budget ones are just fantastic. They've got a lot more heart, a lot more about them. The stories tend to be a bit more deeper and more related. I suppose they haven't got the studios over the top of them telling them what they can and can't do.
Mm-hmm. There definitely is that. Also, and I've done, like you said, I've done big films and I've done smaller films. When you're doing a smaller film like Pandemic, for example, that everybody on that film wants to be on that film because nobody's getting a huge, gigantic paycheck. People want to be there, do the film. They want to work hard. They want the product to be great. And yes, we're not under the thumb of 9 million different cooks in the kitchen. And if you have a strong director and a strong cast, you can really make something fantastic out of, comparatively speaking, a lot less money. But that is the thing. If you're doing a small indie film of any kind, that everybody working, whether it's in the crew or the cast, above the line, below the line, catering, everybody wants to be there because nobody's being made a millionaire off of any of them.
I mean, I've got to say, one of my favorite scenes was when you're stuck in the warehouse and you've got to turn off your torches, and you've got that creature coming towards you. It's just great what they've done with it and the spin on it and the level 5s and it's just great. I wasn't expecting the ending. It broke my heart. But it was really nice as well. It's strange, isn't it? It's like a double-edged sword. It's like horrible on one side, but really nice on the other. Films like this, though, I love because they leave you thinking about the story on what's going to happen next, and I want to know what happened next. And obviously, I don't want to spoil it for anyone. You need to watch this.
Right.
It's definitely not a kids' movie, so make sure
No.
the kids aren't watching. There is lots of gore. But done in the most amazing way. It really is. So before we bid our farewells, what's next for you? What are you working on next? Can you say anything without any NDAs exploding?
I can't actually right now. I am going, like I said, tomorrow up to Vancouver to work on something. And I'll tell you, it's an Apple TV show. I don't even know. I know the character that I'm playing, but I don't actually know the name of the show. They use a dummy name. I know it's been on. Like it's a show that's already in its 3rd season, I believe. I don't know where I'm going. I know the role that I'm playing, but I don't know anything else. So tomorrow's going to be an adventure for me. And
do you know what? You're giving all the clues out. I'm trying to think what's already been on for 3 seasons, and I'm thinking For All Mankind. It could be, but to be fair, if it's an Apple show, it's going to be amazing. Apple produce some amazing shows. There's some great ones on there at the moment, like that just finished Silo. I thought was amazing. You've got Invasion. I'm just going to keep on naming them until you make a reaction. No,
don't honestly know.
Excellent. Isn't it great that you get to the stage in your career where you don't know what you're doing, but you're going to work for Apple and you're just going to rock up and then it's just going to be surprise, and that's just
Yeah.
fantastic. It's like
Well,
a
when I
mystery
did
bag.
well, a couple of years ago when I did Titans, Teen Titans, that shot in Toronto, I had the role I auditioned for was a school teacher who had a student that was being abused, and her relationship with the student. Those were, and then her relationship with the administration. Those were the scenes that I was auditioning with. I got to Toronto, and I was told that I was playing Angela, who was um, the lead girl's mother. And I went, wait a minute, so I'm not a teacher? No. So I'm not worried about a student that no, there's no students, there's no teachers. And I went, oh, so okay, can I have a script now? And they said yes. I had to learn some lines and I had to figure out who the character was. But even upon landing, I thought I was playing a school teacher who was trying to help one of her students. And I was playing the lead girl's mom.
Yeah, surprise. But isn't that sorted out in your contracts before you go, in the way of the roles, or is it a case of your contracts are sorted out for episodes, and then it just says character A or something? Because you could literally be going up there and having like a main role, like a lead role, or would that differ?
Well, that okay. So if you're gonna sometimes okay, so there's now it's changed, and but it used to be like you're going to be a recurring, or you're just going to do a one-off, or you're going to be a series regular, um, or you're going to you're a lead or whatever. Um, but now they can sort of say, hey, come do this one episode, and there might be more for your character, or maybe not, and you kind of negotiate as you go now, which I don't mind too much. I don't mind popping up to Vancouver. My husband's family are there, and I love them dearly. And I lived there for 4 years doing Continuum, so I'll go up. Hopefully, I'll get to do multiple episodes of the show. But I do. I'm okay with the unknown. Would I love to be told I'm going to do 12 episodes? Yes, that would be great. It doesn't quite happen like that much anymore. But like I said, I don't mind the uncertainty. I know that it's a good show, much like Titans was. I had a great time on Titans. Um, and yeah, well, I don't know what I'm walking into, but I'm excited to be walking into it. Let's put it that way.
Well, we'll have to keep a lookout on that for Apple TV. But Rachel, you've been a great guest. It's been an absolute honor to have you on the show live. Everyone watching, thank you so much. If you're not subscribed yet, hit subscribe. We've got some great other guests coming onto the show in the next couple of weeks. But Rachel, don't go anywhere. I'm just going to end the stream, and I'll be able to say goodbye to you properly.
Thank you so much, Brian, and thank you for all anybody who's watching this. I hope I didn't upset anybody or say something insulting.